Guild Wars 2's combat is very different from other MMOs because of how fluid everything is. There's so much room for mobility that some of the hardest challenges in the game can be trivialized by players who have mastered controlling their character. But at the same time, when you have suboptimal keybinds, default settings, or don't know your potential, the game can become really hard. So in this video, I will go over the most essential skills you can learn that will affect almost everything you do in the game, and it's how to move your character and kite. I'll be going over the most efficient and the fastest way to move so you can have the positioning advantage in every fight. You've got the very basics of movement with your WASD keys, which seems simple enough, but let's check out the keybinds. Changing your A and D keys to strafe instead of turning your character is a good start. You'll always be more precise and quick using your right mouse button to turn your character. Normally, moving your mouse moves the cursor, but holding the right mouse button essentially allows you to control your camera and character like a first-person shooter. You will always face the direction of the camera while holding the right mouse button. Because turning your camera is only limited by how quickly you can move your mouse, and keyboard turning is limited to a set animation, you always want to turn with your right mouse button. You want to be moving your character forwards most of the time because moving it sideways or backwards is slower than going forwards, at least in Guild Wars 2. Sometimes you want to move backwards because you want to move away from an enemy, but also cast a skill that requires you to be facing the target. So you would swap between pressing your W and S key depending on which skills you were using at the time. This is why it's also important to learn how all of your skills work, their ranges, and positioning requirements. However, unlike a first-person shooter, you do not always need to be facing the direction that you are moving. This is because if you enable the free camera setting, you can use the left mouse button to change the way your camera is facing without changing the way your character is facing. This is important because you need to take in a lot of information, and not always do you need to be moving in the direction of the way you need to be looking. Also, when using skills that can be cast in any direction regardless of which way you're facing, it is necessary to turn your camera but not your character using the left mouse button to cast them on enemies who are chasing you. This allows you to run at full speed away from them with your W key while counter pressuring them and potentially slowing them down. If you want to turn your character back the way that your camera is facing, you would just hold your right mouse button down and then continue to press W to move in that direction. When you realign your character with your camera like this, you turn your character immediately. This is only faster than having to move your character with your right mouse button because you already spent time turning it with the left mouse button, and then clicking the right button just realigns them. So it is not technically faster to do this, but it does separate the process into two parts, allowing you to preemptively invest time into moving your camera with your left mouse button, and then as soon as you want to move your character, you press your right mouse button. This means that using a combination of the left and right mouse button to control your camera, you can increase your character's movement drastically. While it is nice to be able to move this quickly, it is quite a lot of mouse movement which can be tiring or take up a lot of your hand's ability to perform actions, leaving little room to use your skills. You can use alternate methods to get the same mechanics. Assuming you use your left hand on a QWERTY keyboard, if you wanted to strafe left while moving forwards and chasing an enemy while using multiple skills on them, your left hand has to press the W and A key with your middle and ring finger. Then you have only your index finger, which might be too far to the right, or your pinky, which may be too far to the bottom. If you hold both your right and left mouse button down at the same time, you will move forward towards your camera as if you were holding W and your right mouse button. Except you aren't touching anything on your keyboard. This frees up the finger you would use to press W and allow you to reach for other keys during this time. Using the auto run keybind is also useful for this because you can set your character to move forwards with one key press. Then take that finger off that key and then use it to press other keys. I use R as auto run, but use whatever works for you. There's also the about face keybind, which can help you to move your character much faster. Find a good keybind for this that is accessible. When you use this key, your character turns 180 degrees. If your camera is currently locked, then it will also turn your camera around. If you unlock your camera from your character with your left mouse button, then it will not move your camera, but instead face your character towards the camera. This means that if you wanted to turn your character around, but not your camera, you wouldn't need to move your mouse to turn your character all the way around. You just need to unlock your camera with the left mouse button, then about face. This minimizes the amount of input you need to essentially move backwards at full speed while still looking forwards. This can also be used to make more marginal rotations. If you want to move your character 170 degrees around, then you could use the left mouse button to turn your camera 10 degrees in the other direction, then use about face, which would angle you slightly while turning you around. Once you can manipulate your character to be constantly moving forward while also looking in the direction you need to, you will cover much more distance than the competition. About face is also important for use with movement and ground targeting skills. If you want to use a movement skill in a certain direction, then it's nice to be able to move your character in any direction instantly like this. Some movement skills will move your character backwards, and some will move them forwards. If I'm moving in one direction and want to use a leap skill that moves me backwards, but do it in the direction I'm heading, not backwards, I would need to use about face. If the movement skill is affected by targeting, you first want to detarget by left clicking into open space. Then you want to use the left click to unlock your camera and turn the camera to face the direction that you want your movement skill to go. If your skill moves backwards, then you want to about face from the direction of your camera, which will put your back in the direction your camera is facing. Then use your movement skill, then use the right mouse button to realign your character, face your camera again, and keep moving forwards with W. You can also streamline this by using both mouse buttons so you can immediately continue moving forwards. When playing around skill animations in Guild Wars 2, there are very defined ranges to them. Ideally, you want your enemies to be inside the range of your skill, but for you to be out of range of theirs. Learning all of these techniques will help you to kite or weave in and out of range of your abilities to maximize the amount of damage you can deal while minimizing the amount of pressure you take. And as always, learn all the skills of your build so you can know what the limit to your mobility is. All of this will take a lot of practice to get used to and to be able to perform fluidly. If you're having trouble doing it, then stick to the first mechanics and then learn as you go the later ones. But these mechanics serve as a very solid foundation for learning everything else in the game. And if you want more guides to Guild Wars 2, then check out the links in the description. Like this video if it helped you, and subscribe if you'd like more. And I will see you all next time.